And you can tell from this graphic up here how important we think we are to the state.
Right, right.
So I throw that out there. So our next steps are really the implementation that Mark just talked of. We don't want this just to sit on the shelf like, you know, I would say hundreds of other reports that have been done or in a file cabinet. We really want an implementation strategy so that we can carry this forward. It's a lot of work. We've pulled a lot of people from a lot of areas, and we really want to respect their time and their knowledge, and the companies too, because you are reaching out to the companies. And they want to see some responsiveness from this, and they want to see some deliverables. We want to continue to expand this. We've partnered in a way too with our Tri-Cities friends, because they have a great clean energy initiative down there. We had outreach from the Kittitas IPZ who wants to be included in. So we can see that this has a greater reach than just what we thought of, which we thought we had a big enough region as it was, but we see a lot of interest in this.
We also want to maintain our relationships with the networks that are out there, because we recognize that the needs are going to change of businesses as new ones come and old ones go. We've got to be able to figure out exactly what those needs are as time goes by, so we can prepare our workforce for what the future holds. And again, continue to find resources to fund these efforts is important. New training yet to be designed. We've got a few projects right now underway that are related to clean tech, and we're finding out even now that when we wrote the grant a year and a half ago, the industry has changed already, and we're having to modify that. So it's an ongoing issue with really keeping the pulse of business and knowing what the need is out there. And we're hopeful that we've got a great foundation laid for this. I do want to mention too that I think that Lisa mentioned economic development sometimes is a couple, 3 years out, and workforce is right now. So it's this partnership between economic and workforce development that economic development's looking out there, beyond the horizon right now, trying to help companies that are going to be locating here or are going to be growing in the future. And we're really concerned with the skills of the workforce right now and putting people back to work. So it's a great partnership between those two efforts. That we've got the strategic long-term thinking and the shorter-term tactics, and together, I think that's what helps to really grow the economy.
And that's it. Questions?
Thank you, Robin and Mark. James Palmer, the Department of Commerce. I have two questions. First one I'll direct to you, Robin. And that is, you mentioned some about the mature companies and the role that they can play in perhaps the clean tech space. You have people making sheet metal, things like that can actually be involved and have new market opportunities. Can you talk a little bit about how you're reaching out to your mature industries or industries that may not identify markets in the clean tech scape, and how are you working with them to communicate opportunities in those new markets? And then my second question to Mark, you talked a little bit about the dynamic nature and getting caught on the bad side of changes in the clean tech market, because it is a rather nascent industry with lots of change. How are you ensuring committing training dollars and work source dollars without picking winners and losers and making those decisions about how technology moves forward? Thanks.
Good questions. Thanks, James. We actually have been dedicated to making sure that we identify all the players. One of the things about clean technology is sometimes it's not just a vertical. Sometimes it's a horizontal. It's more like information technology. You have a lot of companies that are supply chain to some of the more well-known companies that are in the clean energy industry. So we try to develop subsectors of really clean energy, clean technology. We have companies in smart grid. We have green building companies. We have other energy efficiency or energy storage companies. So we're actually going out to them. One example is a company that's known for making cost-effective lighting for commercial buildings. And now they're looking at different types of their manufacturing line can be used to develop solar panels in addition to these lighting panels that they're building. Their production line can also be used for developing wind turbines. We talked about them before. And so they're actually finding it out on their own, and they're coming to us. Some of the other ones, so they self-identify most of the times, but some of the other ones were actually being asked, do you have a company that can manufacture S or X for a recruitment client. And we go through our database of companies and say, yes, we can introduce you to them, which is what happened with this lighting company. Right now, they're doing infrared panels that are used over in Europe in trains and planes and different types of transportation device like ships. And so we introduce them, and they find that they have a whole new industry cluster that's opening up for them. So it's important for us to know our industry. So we do know our industry. We also have some in the aerospace field. Now you hear a lot about biofuels. A lot of those companies are, you know, as I say, it's more of a horizontal. So knowing your industries, knowing your companies, and making sure that you're communicating with them. So we try real hard to be inclusive. You know, people want to be left out, that's fine, you know, but we allow them to tell us that. So hopefully that answers your question.
And I think it answered mine too, in that you're preparing people with skills that have a broad applicability. And so you're not training someone just to be a photovoltaic creator or, you know, production worker and such, but you're giving them the skills that can be applied to a variety of industries. So we're not picking winners and losers. We're trying to create people with that are, you know, industrial athletes that are agile enough to move from one business to the next when the market opportunity arises for them. And so in part of this, the asset map we're developing is to figure out what indeed are those common skill sets that are required across a broad range of industries, so someone can move from place to place and they can perhaps stay in their own community to move from business to business as opposed to having to relocate to find the work.
Don't let him get the microphone.
Oh, thank you.
Is there another question?
Yeah, I have a question. Steve Garrettson with Enterprise Seattle. A lot of times what we find in working with the clean energy or clean technology industry is that the skills that are required are traditional skills applied to new companies. And there's a huge expectation among the general public that clean technology is going to bring a whole raft of new jobs and new positions, when actually what we're finding is that there's a shortage of skilled labor in traditional areas like welding or sheet metal working that are required for the new technologies. And so we have kind of a disconnect with the public's understanding, public including public officials. And have you run into that at all, and how have you handled it?
Yeah, I think we're seeing, you know, there's a large number of unemployed individuals across the entire state, and yet we have 40,000 job vacancies, you know, just speaking in broad terms. And so it's our job in workforce development to get close to those companies and figure out exactly what those skill sets are that they need, that they cannot find out there, and help direct people into obtaining, you know, whatever the requisite skills are. Because, you know, we're always going to have changing technologies and companies that are adapting to what the new technology might be, and someone who may have been a welder, a traditional welder, may need to now know TIG or MIG or some other, you know, form of their current skill. So we're always trying to figure out what that next level of certification, what that next credential, what that next competency is, so we can plug somebody in so they can go and get that job that's laying vacant right now on the table that pays a family wage and offers benefits.
What assessment tool, Marie Brilliante, WorkSource, Grays Harbor, and Pacific Counties, what assessment tools are you using in order to find skilled workers?
Well, right now we've undertaken in Spokane an initiative to more broadly use work keys. KeyTrain has been purchased by the Employment Security Department and is pretty broadly used across the workforce centers, and now we're investing in the use of work keys as well, so we can assess anyone who's a youth or an adult coming into our system to determine where they stand with regard to those workforce competencies. Those aren't to say, though, exactly, you know, for a welder or for a through-hole solderer, but rather more broad competencies, you know, reading for information, applied technology, and things such as that. That we feel as if we can use that tool more broadly, we'll know better who our workers are, what their skills and aptitudes are at this point in time, and then they'll be a better fit for the employers that they seek to go into, to go to work for. But then they'll still require some level of vocational training to get the exact skill sets they need. But work keys for us right now is the solution that we're pursuing, and it's It's actually taking off. We've got some good buy-in from different businesses who use it with great results.
How long does that take?
About 3 hours per person. Kaz?
On your last bullet, you spoke about the need to identify opportunities or resources to continue funding ongoing research. Can I, by that, presume that you have the resource, i.e., an individual whose job it is principally to bird dog grants and other opportunities like that?
Not yet. We,
looking at 'em.
yeah, you know, as a team approach, we're looking at that, but that is one of the things that's needed. You know, we've worked quite a bit with WSU and looking at their research work that's coming out of the university, both in Pullman and in Spokane, to see if there were matches that we could make. And I think over the last maybe 3 or 4 years that we're seeing some more momentum there. But we don't have anybody specifically identified who it is their full-time job. We have somebody who would like it to be their full-time job, but right now we don't have the salary to pay them. But it is an important part, and it's what Eagles, if you ever listen to Eagles talk, he'll talk a lot about that. That's really, really important for us to grow our own. As I said in Washington State, it's an important element of any economic development or workforce development. The commercialization of real technologies. And we have a lot of great scientists and researchers that are working on a lot of really interesting projects, and we're hopeful that in the future that many more of those will be commercialized.
Okay, thank you. Let's give our panelists a round of applause. Thank you very much, Mark and Robin. That was fantastic. Thank you for sharing your partnership with all of us. And now we have come to our official mid-afternoon break. We're going to begin again at 3:15 sharp with Dave McFadden from Yakima, so please don't be late, but we're going to take a 30-minute break, and we'll see you back here in just a little bit.